Hey, I'm Alex Radical from Board Game Co, and we are back continuing our top 100 games of all time as of 2024. This is the third video in the series. We'll be covering 80 through 71. If you missed the first two videos, definitely recommend going ahead and checking those out. If you missed it yesterday, we had a little bit of a holiday gift guide for you, a bunch of fun things that I recommend you check out in case you haven't already bought gifts. If you already bought gifts, I guess it is what it is, although there's still fun things to know about. Past that, I cover this in every video, but the very short version of how I put together this top 100 is I go ahead and I completely de-rank every single game in my collection, then I rank them all again, putting them in the 4s, 4.5s, 5s, all of that, and then I rank everything within the category using Pub Meeple, and finally do a manual adjustment to make sure that it lines up with what I feel things should be as. As far as how my top 100 is formed, or the goal, the intent, the goal is they are my top 100 games of all time as of right now. The of all time is of all the games I've ever played, but given here in the moment based on my current desire to play those games. That's something we talk about every year. I talk about more in the first video. You can watch the full length of that. But lastly, before we dive into the top 100, or specifically the 80 through 71, if you missed it, we are currently running a support drive over on the channel. You can check out the video. I'll have it linked down below, but I'm giving away a whole bunch of games. If you are already a member over on Ko-Fi or Patreon or YouTube members, if you're already a member, you're already eligible. If you're not yet a member, you can either comment on that video and or become a member for additional entries. Any support is really appreciated. And with that, let's go ahead and start off with our number 80. Our number 80 is one that at times, I think the lowest this was, or I guess the highest it was, depends how you look at it, on the top 100, was around 30, maybe 27, but is one that has dipped. Right now, this is my number 80, and that's Food Chain Magnate. Food Chain Magnate still remains an incredibly impressive game from the first time I played it through today. I do find, and I talk about this every single year, I do find that the mental exhaustion of playing it is so much that it's a game that I'm only in the mood for in the right situation. I need to mentally be prepped. It's not a game that I walk into and be like, let's play Food Chain Magnate right now. Rather, it's a game that I prep for a game that I'm like, tonight is Food Chain Magnate. But this game is something that I describe as economic warfare. The basic idea of Food Chain Magnate is you are reacting and adjusting your strategies to what your opponents are doing. Because in the game, you're going to be producing food. You're going to be producing pizza and hamburgers and all kinds of drinks. And the expansion adds even more stuff, but we're not talking about that quite yet. But you're going to be trying to produce these things, but then you have to go ahead and sell those things to the various neighborhoods around you. So you have your restaurant, you have the houses, they all want stuff. Well, it's not quite true because they don't want stuff. Instead, what you have to do is you have to start advertising campaigns to make sure that they do want stuff. Throw a billboard up that talks about some burgers. Start a little bit of an overhead flight thingy showing about how much you want Bob's Pizza. And then from there, they are in the mood for those things. And the good news is you're producing those things. The problem is you just started an advertising campaign for pizza, and so somebody comes along and they start making pizza, but they're making it closer to those houses and also offering it at a discount, which means they are buying Joe's Pizza instead of Bob's Pizza, which is not what you intended at all. You gave them that want, and then Joe's taking advantage of it. And so you quickly pivot and you start going ahead and offering burgers instead. Suddenly demand shifts and people want burgers. The problem is Rachel jumps in and she instead shifts the demand in the advertising to start blasting out radio ads for various drinks that she is instead supplying. The game is a constant adjustment to the economic strategies your opponents are pursuing as you try to build up your fast food chain empire in the game. It is incredible to play. It's an incredible experience. That's Food Chain Magnate. Coming in number 79, we have Rajas of the Ganges. Rajas of the Ganges is a game that I once upon a time actually got rid of because I wasn't sure if I loved it quite as much. So my first play, I played it, I got rid of it, and then I got it back, and I still enjoy this game to this day. It is basically dice placement. You're going to have these dice, you're going to be rolling dice, you have all these fun colored dice, and you're going to be placing them on different areas of the board to try to advance along the river, to try to improve your engine, to get tiles that are going to be going into your own little sideboard. The game is one of those games that it kind of feels like a Stefan Feld game. It's not a Stefan Feld game. It's from Inca brand and Marcus brand, but it has that mid-weight, lightweight accessibility. So it's a game that's going to give you a lot of things to consider, but it falls into a nice degree of accessibility where it's a very rewarding game to play, not overly taxing, not too many rules, but not too few rules, but a lot to consider as you try to figure out how to utilize your dice, what other players are going to be going for ahead of you, and also giving you some degree of variability, even just the way the river is set up. This is a game that I still hope they'll have an actual expansion. They have a modular mini expansion, but I hope that one day they'll have an actual expansion because it's a fantastic one. That is Rajas of the Ganges. Coming in at 78, we have Foundations of Rome. Yes, I know this is Foundations of Metropolis because Foundations of Rome is a giant, giant box and I don't want to lift it up. I will say Foundations of Metropolis, I do rank a drop lower than Foundations of Rome, specifically because Foundations of Rome has both the gameplay and the table presence and production and design and art. They all matter in a game. Foundations of Metropolis, that said though, this is a game that's easy enough to walk around with. It's basically the same rules. It doesn't have some of the modules. So again, this is Foundations of Metropolis is our placeholder. Foundations of Rome is the game that's going as my 78. You see, Foundations of Rome is a polyomino game, but a polyomino game that, again, like Food Chain Magnate, you are constantly acting and reacting based on what your opponents are doing. You see, you're trying to build out various things in the city. You're trying to build various civic buildings that will be rewarded based on the buildings around them. The problem is you can build buildings, polyominoes, over other buildings, over other polyominoes, and you can go ahead and replace the types of buildings, polyominoes, that are there in order to go ahead and suit your own needs, in order to fight for population, in order to go ahead and make sure that your opponent that just put down a civic building that benefits from having a ton of population next to it, you just swapped out your population for some economy, and instead their building's now locked and loaded, and they have to try to pivot and adjust. Well, it's not really locked. They can also build over their own buildings, but you're constantly building out. You're bidding over the various sections, the neighborhoods of Rome, and then you're trying to build out from there. The game has like 4 or 5 modules that all add interesting ways to play. My favorite by far is going to be the monuments. I will not play Foundations of Rome without the monuments. It's so simple to include, and it adds a nice little degree of variability. Honestly, it's my biggest complaint against Foundations of Metropolis. Still a great game, much better price point, but definitely lacking in that area. That's going to be Foundations of Rome, my number 78. I think 80, 79, 70. I do this every time. 77 is a smaller box game, and that's Cat in the Box. Cat in the Box is still a complete delight of a trick-taking game. This is not my highest ranked trick-taking game, but it is up there. Cat in the Box is a trick-taking game that defies imagination, which is part of why I love this game so much. You see, in Cat in the Box, you make up reality as you see fit. It's a play on Schrodinger's cat. You don't know what things are until they're established, and the cat in the box, what is the cat? You see, you're going to be given a handful of cards. The cards will have numbers in them, but not colors. But you get to decide what a card is as you play it. You have a 7, great, play a 7 and say it's a blue 7. As you do so, on the master board, you mark off that the blue 7 has been played. Until you did play the blue 7, someone else could have played the blue 7, because as long as you have a 7 in your hand, you could play the blue 7. As soon as someone plays the blue 7 has been played, it is out of play, reality is defined as you play through the game. It also has the nice effect that you can sit there and say, oh, I'm out of red, I can't follow, or red's actually a good color, I'm out of green, I can't follow, look at that, I'm playing red. Basically, in trick-taking games, very often there's a trump suit, and being out of a suit in order to break into the trump suit can often be a good tool, but you get to decide when you're out of green. The problem is, you mark on your board that you are now out of green. Reality is created as you play, so once you say you're out of green, you cannot play green cards for the rest of the round because you have told the table that you're out of green. You created the reality, and now you have to adhere to it as you play. That produces a fascinating little mind game of trying to figure out what the right point is to call different things, and combine that with a little bit of a scoring puzzle as far as trying to get different connected cards on the scoring board, and you have a delightful game that never gets old, never gets boring. That is going to be Cat in the Box. Our number 76 is going to be, are we 76? We did 180, 70. 76 over here is Harmonies. A new one to me on this list. In fact, looking at my list over here, Harmonies is, oh, there's two in this particular set that are new to me this year. Harmonies is going to be one of those 2 that's new to me. Harmonies is a delightful game that's going to be in that Cascadia, Calico kind of line of games where you're ultimately trying to create various scoring combinations based on the things you place down onto your board. You see, in the game, you're going to be drafting various environment cards, and environment cards give you these kind of ways you're trying to structure things. You want a building piece next to a plains piece. You want a 3-level mountain next to a 1-level water. And so you're creating these kind of situations as you go, and then marking off that you've scored those situations. Combine that with the fact that you're generally trying to be mindful of how you actually score things in general based on some general rules around the train, and I always recommend using the little module that gives you a different way that you can earn your own unique scoring advantage in the game. And what you have is a little puzzle of trying to figure out the right terrain pieces to place down into your board to create the perfect harmony. The game is visually attractive, easy to teach, easy to play, plays at a variety of player counts, plays well at a variety of player counts, plays at a very reasonable time frame. That's going to be Harmonies over here, a delightful little addition to that small point scoring, optimization, fun little, I don't even know how to describe it further, but those kinds of games if you know them. From there, we're going to move down to R75. R75, let me just make this, do I keep the order? I'll keep the order, we'll do it like that. Our number 75 is Brass Birmingham. Brass Birmingham is our 75, a delightful game by Martin Wallace. I originally played Age of Industry back in the day, then I played Brass Lancashire, and then I played Brass Birmingham, and I have proceeded to keep them in the order that I played them. Each one feels like a slightly better version of the original, although to be fair, this version of Brass is actually the revised version of the original Brass. There's a whole history to this game, and if I'm not mistaken, I believe there's eventually going to be a Brass new one coming out, the new one as well from Roxley, so we'll see what happens there. But Brass is, oh my gosh, it's so good. Brass is, it's a brain burnery game like Food Chain Magnate. There's a lot to consider. but you're building out various industries in the game. You're going to have cards that represent either locations or types of industries, and it's up to you to try to go through these two ages, the canal era and the rail era in the game, as you try to take loans when you need to, being mindful there's a cost to doing so you want to make sure it's the right move for you at that time, trying to figure out which technologies, which tiles you're going to specialize in. Are you going to get a little bit of coal or tin onto the board in order to fulfill demand? Are you trying to go ahead and deal with just shipping in general? Are you trying to get more of those the pottery or whatever, those kilns onto the board? You're trying to do a ton of different things as you place different industry tiles onto the board, being mindful of the limited number of actions you have in the game to try to get the best economic structure, and then having to kind of rebuild half of that economic structure as soon as you move to the rail era. There's a lot going on in this game. It is currently, I believe, the #1 game on Board Game Geek as of the time of this filming. It's well deserved. It is it's a masterpiece of a game. It's a complete masterpiece with, again, going back to what I mentioned about Foundations of Rome, that has that economic, that mechanical brilliance that the game provides, but then it combines it with an incredible production, and the ending result is a game that delivers on all fronts. That is Brass Birmingham. Our number 74 is Xia Legends of a Drift System. I have recently been enjoying Iridia the Path We Dare Tread by the same creator. Xia has been out for quite some time, and this is like the only sandbox game I enjoy remotely to this level. There's a few, not sandbox is the wrong term, pick up and deliver. There's a few pick up and deliver games that I enjoy, but Xia is likely the best one. Like, I'm pretty sure it's going to be the highest pick up and deliver we have on this list, but it's effectively a sandbox game where you can play as a merchant or a pirate, space merchant or space pirate, obviously, but as you wander through space, building out your spaceship, playing a little mini polyomino game of how you outfit your spaceship, because you want more engines, you want more weapons, you want more shields, all of that has to fit onto the spaceship you have, but you're going to be going through a variety of different things you can do to try to earn more legendary points in the game. You're going to be trying to deliver various goods, you're going to be trying to go ahead and fight off various enemies, you're going to have NPC enemies on the board, but you can also go ahead and attack various other enemies, although sometimes there'll be a consequence to doing so. This is a true sandbox adventure, giving you the choice of how long you're going to play for. There's various lengths to how long the game can go, what you're going to do as you play, and the various pathways you can take while engaging in a variety of mechanisms, from that polyomino, from tableau building, from your little, the pick up and deliver. A variety of things you're going to try to do as you look at the board in front of you, you look at space, and look at what is going to be your competitive advantage as you try to figure out your pathway to the most legendary points ahead of the other players. There's also an expansion which I haven't played, the Embers of a Forsaken Star. I do want to play it. This is like a solo campaign and things. I want to do that. Haven't done it yet, but Xia Legend of a Drift System is our number 74. Our number 73 is Rolling Heights from AEG. I have loved Rolling Heights since I first played it, and it's only gotten better for me as I continue to play it. There's something strangely compelling about rolling those meeples and having them land in various configurations. And when you roll a meeple into a box, I'm saying meeple, I'm not saying dice. When you roll meeples into a box and have them land perfectly standing up and get the double benefit from those meeples, there's something so strangely compelling about that. If you've played games like Quacks of Quedlinburg or Cubitos, you should definitely check out Rolling Heights. It is my favorite of those three games, which I guess tells you those other two are not on my top 100. But Rolling Heights is incredibly satisfying as you build up the little city around you, as you gather various tiles, try to build those structures, earn more meeples that you can be rolling into your little box, as you basically build that tableau. It's not really deck building, it's meeple building, but you're rolling meeples, and the meeples give you different abilities, and so trying to figure out the right combinations of meeples that will give you what you're trying to do. Do you need more glass? Do you need more steel? Do you need more wood? What is the materials that you need, and what are the abilities that you need? This is another one that I definitely do hope there'll be an expansion for. I could use some more meeples. I will say, as much as Rolling Heights is my favorite of Quacks and Cubitos, Quacks and Cubitos destroy Rolling Heights and the variety of things you can do with the various stuff you're rolling or pulling from a bag. There's more abilities going on in those games, which actually should tell you how good I think Rolling Heights is, because if you've watched my channel, you know how much I appreciate powers and abilities, and the fact that this is knocking out those powers and abilities tells you how much I enjoy this game. Our number 72 is one that has dropped a little bit this past year, but I still do love it, and it is Aquatica. Aquatica was once upon a time a 5 out of 5 game for me. It's dropped a bit to a 4.5, although I do wonder, I still see redemption possibilities in its future, but I have played this over the past year. It's because it's always interesting. Whenever games drop, sometimes it's because I've played them, and sometimes it's because I've not played them. It could happen either way. Sometimes absence absence should make the heart grow fonder, but sometimes absence makes me forget how much I appreciate the game, and other times diving back into a game makes me realize that I built it up in my head more than it's at, and in this case, I just think over time, I've grown to appreciate Aquatica a drop less. Make no mistake, this is my number 72 out of all the games I've played, so it's still doing fairly well, but Aquatica is a unique tableau building game where you're going to be gathering cards. You have a hand mechanism, so you kind of have a hand of cards. You're going to be playing cards that give you various things you can do, and then eventually you can play a card that recalls all those cards into your hand. So it's a puzzle of trying to figure out when do you need certain cards back to pursue certain strategies versus when are you giving up a full turn effectively to get those cards back into your hand. Meanwhile, you're trying to figure out the right cards to get and how to get them. Versus economy versus military, what are you trying to do to gather these cards, place them into your own personal tableau board where you're going to kind of cash in on different abilities. There's a whole little puzzle of trying to cash in on your manta rays, slide cards up on your board in order to go ahead and eventually turn those cards into treasures that will score you points. Meanwhile, the expansion, the first expansion of the game, which I highly recommend, I think it really elevates the game, that's going to give you different things you're trying to do as far as these different cards. You're trying to get either ongoing in-game benefits or one-time use benefits that will also be the trigger of the end game. It is a fascinating game, plays in 30 to 45 minutes. It can go quick, especially with two players to know the game. Can take a little longer if you're playing at a higher player counts or you're just taking your time with a table talk or whatnot. But Aquatica still delivers an excellent experience that I thoroughly enjoy every single time I play. Our number 71 is going to be the other game that is new to my top 100 this year, and that is Skyrise. Skyrise from Rocksteady Games, which I just realized puts two Rocksteady games in this particular bracket over here, but Skyrise is a game that if I had to guess, I would say it'll be higher in my top 100 next year. Although it's hard to say because you're always competing. Once you start getting to the higher numbers, you're just competing with games that I really, really, really love, and it's going to be hard, but we'll see what happens. But Skyrise, I got to play the prototype when this first came out. In fact, I played the original Metropolis way back in the day. The game this is kind of loosely based on, well, not loosely based on, with changes, but definitely based on. And when I played Skyrise originally, I thought it was a great game. I thought it was very solid. I gave it a 4 to 5. I liked the game. The more I've played it since it's delivered, the more I've appreciated the combination of the simplicity of the actual game and the rules versus the complexity of the decision making you're going through as you try to cut people off from the various regions they're going to want in the game. You see, Skyrise features a bidding mechanism where you are bidding not on the single thing that won't change, but rather by bidding you change what's being bid on. The game features various neighbors in the game, and so if I bid on a neighborhood, you can only outbid me by moving to a new neighborhood, which forces this fascinating puzzle of trying to figure out not just what the right move is for you, but how to end up the bidding in a system where it'll be advantageous for you, but not advantageous for others to outbid you. And that results in a fascinating little puzzle. And sometimes you have these cascading moves where you can earn these free moves right off at the back of a successful bid. And knowing where and how to place things and figuring out that value to yourself and the potential value to others results in a game that is incredibly simple to learn, incredibly simple to teach. Well, incredibly might be a stretch, but comparatively speaking, for this weight class, it's a very accessible game, but gives you so much strategy baked into the level where it's at. There's so much strategy and thought behind every single thing you do in the game. Skyrise is absolutely fantastic, and it's my number 71 game of all time. And that concludes another top 10 of our top 100. This is 80 through 71. We'll be back tomorrow with 70 through 61. Hope you enjoyed this video. As always, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co., and I hope you have a good one.